Now, before we push our campaigns to our ad account, there's two more things we need to set up: our ad extensions and our audiences. Now, before I do that, I'm just going to turn these campaigns from active to paused, just so that they're not that they don't start running as soon as I push them to the ad account. Actually, I have this set to start October 1st, I believe, which is what I did for these campaigns. Yeah, October 1st. So they'll be fine with staying enabled because they won't run for a couple days anyways. But the reason why you may want to have them pause is that if you haven't finished setting up everything within the account itself, there's still a couple more things we're going to cover with conversion tracking and whatnot. You might want to push these to the account without having them start spending money right away. But because I set a start date on them, I don't have to worry about that. Otherwise, I would set those two being paused. So for our ad extensions, we're going to come over here to our shared library for any account level ad extensions. And account level ad extensions means we're going to apply them to all of our campaigns, all of our ad groups, all of our keywords. And now, depending on the extension, depending on what you're doing, you might want to add certain extensions just to certain campaigns. So let's say you're a injury attorney. You don't want your slip and fall ads to be showing any extensions related to car accidents and vice versa. But since we're only worried about one service, then we're just going to focus on account level ad extensions. Now for site links, we're using a landing page, so we're not going to try to link the user out to other pages on the site. We also only have one page on this website, so there's nowhere else to link them to, even if we wanted to. So we're going to move over to the callout extensions. And we need to add 4 of these. So these are just little snippets of text that we can add under the ad. So for our callout here, it should be something that's going to get the user interested in potentially clicking on your ad, something that can entice the click. So for what I'm going to do here, and you can create more than 4 if you want to test which callouts are really going to perform better, which is something you always want to test, but we're going to focus on macro tests first. So we're just going to add 4 for now. So for here, I'm just going to add winning bartender. What is my character limit here? 25. Okay. So award-winning bartender. It'll be 1 device preference. I'll just keep it all. If you want to only have something start at a certain date or end at a certain date, you can put that there. I'm going to copy and paste this, and I'm going to need to copy and paste both of these. Just need 4 of these. So now I'm going to go with fully licensed and insured. Can I put that in 1? Nope. I don't know if they will allow simple. They might disallow this callout extension for having the plus sign in it, but I'm going to try to get it through, see if it works. So for now, just fully licensed and insured. So moving on for our next one, I'm going to go with three awesome packages. So there's 3 different packages that a customer can choose. So I'm going to try seeing that entices people, saying, hey, there are various options that you have to choose from. Let's go down here for our last one. Let's just go. This goes through all of Mass. So let's do all of Mass. That'll be fine. So now we have our 4 callout extensions. Now the next extension that most people are going to want to add is the call extension. Now we haven't talked about conversion tracking yet. That'll be something that we talk about once the ads get posted to the account. Most because I was having issues with analytics. Otherwise I would have set that up beforehand, but I have to wait for that issue to get resolved. But we're going to be tracking phone calls through the use of CallRail, and I'll go through the entire process of setting that up. And we're going to have a phone number that's dedicated just to the actual call extension. So anytime we show the number in the ad itself, we're going to use this particular phone number. But because that is not, we haven't gone through and set that up through this video yet, and I haven't gone and set that up because I'm doing everything on the video, we're not going to set this up as of right now, but I'll do this afterwards. But right now, this is where you'd basically go in and add your country and the actual phone number for the phone, and you want to make sure call reporting is enabled, which we'll cover that after. But ideally, conversions would already be set up at this point, but have to put that later on in the video because analytics are screwed up. And call extension is the other extension you want to add. Now, this is a physical location. You can add the locations here by connecting with your Google My Business account. Now, this particular PPL site doesn't have a GMB associated with it, so there's nothing to set up here, but you'd go through that process of just adding the single or the multiple Google My Business listings that are associated with the business. Hey, this is future Jared here. I just wanted to point something out because I forgot to mention it during the video. So we added our call out extensions here. Now this is just the account level. Sorry, this is just a shared library, and now we need to actually add it to the accounts. So then from here, we just go down to add extensions, find the call out extension, and we can add an account level extension. We have all the ones here. We can just select them all and click OK, and then they'll show here. And then when you post to your account, they'll show up under your extensions. If you just add it to the shared library, it won't show up under your account when you post. You have to come down here and add the call out extension. Now, if you don't add it to the shared library and you try to add an account level call out extension or any extension, then there will be none there. So you have to add it to the shared library. Next, we're going to set up our audiences. So for our audience, we're going to just search for audience. We can add an audience or a negative audience. Now, you generally don't want to start off by adding any negative audiences, even if you know, for example, one of the audiences that you can have are homeowners and renters. So if you are a business that only works with homeowners, such as a contractor, you might add renters as a negative audience. However, an audience does not mean that that is who that person is. That just means that based on Google's data, that is who they are. So we're going to add audiences as observations. So if you were a contractor only looking to target homeowners, you would add both homeowners and renters as an audience because you're just going to observe it. It doesn't make any changes to the account by default. It just shows you what your data would look like if you did have these audiences in use. So what you're able to see then is based on your conversion data, are people who are homeowners, are they converting more than average? Is the cost per lead lower than average, which is good? Are renters converting very poorly? Is the cost per conversion very high? Then what that means is, that it could be a good audience to actually exclude, but you don't want to just do that by default because, again, it's not based on who actually fits that audience. It's based on what Google's data believes who fits that audience. So I'm going to go under audiences, and I'm going to create a campaign level audience, and I'm going to apply it to all my campaigns. So now I can go through this and I can decide what's relevant for this individual site. So I could look through here. I could look at the detailed demographics, remarketing list, which we don't have added. But for example, we can look at parental status. So we can look. So maybe they're throwing a party. I mean, granted, if someone's 17, they're probably not throwing a party in which they need a bartender for. We can look at education level. So maybe if someone is graduating college, or maybe if someone who is in college could be getting married soon, or whatever it may be. We can add these various degrees as audiences. Again, we're just observing to see how that data is. We're not actually making any changes to the account. So let me just add these three here. Let me go back to campaign audience. Let me go back into detailed demographics. We already have these three added. Let's look at employment. So nothing like this would really be relevant. It could be, that they work for a big company, or not really. So I don't think any of this is going to be relevant. Marital status. Let's go for both. Let's go for all these because weddings. So there we go. Let's go into campaign level again. All the campaigns. Detailed demographics. Homeowners. Let's just put this here as well. Maybe we'll find some interesting data. Again, it's just an observation, so it's not making any actual changes. And if some of these, if we don't find any conclusive data, we can just get rid of them. So there we go. So those were our detailed demographics, and now we can go in and we can add things like affinity audiences. So we're going to go in here. We're just going to, again, we're not going to necessarily go too crazy here. We're just going to look to see what makes sense. So under like new mobile device, nothing that's relevant. Installed app categories. So we could look to see here, if there's something that was particularly relevant to our industry. In this case, not really. In market audience. So I did pull up the definitions here on Google Ads just because I wouldn't be able to explain this well on my own. But according to Google itself, an in-market audience is what they're actively searching for, compared to an affinity audience, which is what they are interested in. So affinity is interest targeting, and in-market is basically search and purchase behavior targeting. So in market, what we can do is we can see here there's anything around events or weddings and whatnot. So we could go through here, and so I'm not going to worry about this too much right now, just because I don't want to overload the account. There's already so much. But if someone's getting married, they probably have stuff like honeymoons and whatnot booked. So travel could also be traveling for their wedding. Real estate, so maybe they recently were looking at moving in together or moving to a new house. Gifts and occasions, so we can look under here. Wedding planning, that's a good one. I'm gonna add that. Photo and video service, so we can look at if they're planning on filming an event. Party supplies, so event planning, parties, weddings, event photographers. Let's add that, and then let's go back in. Back to in market. Event tickets, employment, education, dating, electronics, business services. Could find someone that's maybe planning a business event or maybe like a conference. I'm not gonna be too worried about that right now. Apparel and accessories. Do they have anything such as like wedding gowns or anything like that? Doesn't look like it. So let's go under affinity. So someone's generally interested in something. So let's try to see if, what do we have under here? So under the food and dining, nothing really alcohol related necessarily. So I think we have enough for now. I'm not gonna I don't want this to be a 10-hour video, but we have more than enough audiences to kind of see how things are going to look. And we can see here all these are on observation. We're just seeing how how our data is going to look based on that specific audience. So now we're ready to push the ad account live. Now, since the budget right now is just about $500 a month is what I'm willing to kind of pay to kind of start getting this PPL campaign started. I'm not going to go too crazy with the amount of campaigns I have. I can target all of Massachusetts, so I could go in here and add counties or pretty much every major city. But with the cost per clicks that I'm setting out with the daily budget, it would cannibalize the account way too much to have such a slim budget in comparison to how many campaigns would be running. So I'm just going to start with Boston and Worcester, but for scaling this account, that would be pretty much one of the first things would be if I everything is working, everything is profitable, increase the budget, add more locations. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to post this account to our Google Ads account, which is still sitting right here with nothing in it. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to click post, and we're going to do all campaigns. And now we are pushing everything into our Google Ads account. All right, so that's done. Now we can just go back to Google Ads and just reload. Now we can see we have a bunch more options here with our bid adjustments, change history, drafts and experience, etc. Because now we actually have campaigns within the account. Give this a second here to load. Okay, so now we can see that's pending. So before we make the final, before we make the final changes, because what we have now is account settings, which we didn't have beforehand. So we go under here under settings, we can now go to account settings, and this wasn't an option that we had beforehand. So we want to make sure that under our account settings, we go under, if we're using CallRail and we're integrating that, what we're going to need is this right here for our tracking template. What this is going to do is this is going to allow us to get call data on a keyword level. So we're going to know the exact keyword that triggered the call. I'm just going to save that. If you're not using CallRail, you don't have to worry about that. Auto tagging, we want to make sure that auto tagging is on. Message reporting, I'm just going to turn it on. Even if we're not using message extensions, which allows people to text in, we still want to have this on just so that if we do start turning on a message extension later on, we don't have to worry about making sure that the reporting is on. Call reporting should also be on, and we want ad suggestions to be off. We don't want Google automatically making changes to our ad account. So that's what we're going to finish off for our account settings. And now we can make the changes to our campaigns here. What we're going to do is we're going to select all of our campaigns, and we're going to edit our budgets. And we're going to use a shared budget and just the one from our library that we added beforehand. And now what we have is all of our campaigns are sharing the same budget. And now we're going to go to our negative keyword lists, and we're going to apply our negative keywords to our negative keyword lists. So we're going to go to apply to campaigns, select all of our campaigns. Now this is applied to all of our campaigns. And if we want to verify that, we could just go back into our negative keyword list and see applied to 2 campaigns. So we're just going to try this again because I don't know what happened to my 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. is I'm just going to go to ad schedule all days, which is nice. I'm going to go from midnight to 9:45. Then go from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I'm going to go from 8:15 to 11:45. There we go. So these are our 3 ad schedules. The 15 minutes in between, that's just because I'm not sure at the top of my head whether going from hour to hour would be fine. Most likely it would be, so I might adjust this later on. I'll just have to double check. But that 15-minute gap shouldn't be that bad, especially because where the ad budget is, will be easy to change in the future. But basically, the 10 a.m. to the 8 p.m. is when phone calls are going to be accepted. So what I want to do is take the non-phone call prime hours and make a bid adjustment, a negative bid adjustment. Now, generally, you don't want to make bid adjustments before you have conversion data. But because we know that phone calls are what we're after, and during certain hours, we're not actively accepting phone calls. But if someone does call and leaves a voicemail, we'll get back to them. Chances of closing that into a qualifying them as a lead is going to be lower. And so maybe we can entice someone to fill out a form, or to, if they do call, we get it as a much cheaper phone call, so it'll save us in the long run. So I'm just going to grab all these non-desirable times. I'll just do this manually. So all the 10 a.m.s I'm going to keep. Everything else I'm going to select. So that's all of these. I should have 14 of them. Yep, 14 selected. Change bid adjustments. And I'm going to decrease by, let's do by 50%. So during the times where I'm not accepting phone calls, I'll still bid, but I'm willing to pay 50% less. So if I don't show up, if my ads don't show up, I don't really care. But if they do show up, I can get a fairly cheap click during that time.